Hello everyone, welcome back to this channel. So in this video, we're going to try to learn about NumPy arrays. NumPy is really helpful if you want to perform uh, mathematical or array computations in Python, especially if you want to use Python for data analysis. NumPy is one of the libraries you're going to be working with a lot, and mostly you're going to be using NumPy with arrays and data structures. So NumPy is really helpful for all those tasks. So without further ado, let's get right into it. So to learn about arrays, we're going to work on a mini project, and the project I decided to create like a brief to make things a little bit more engaging. So here's the brief for the project. So we're going to be analyzing temperature data. So it's like a daily temperature trends analysis. So I added like a fictional client to make things much more engaging. So here's more about the brief. Here's the background. So Green Data Analytics. Green Data Analytics is working with a local environmental agency to study how daily temperature fluctuates across a short period. So the goal is to help communities plan better around weather dependent activities such as farming, logistics, and outdoor works. So the agency has provided simulated temperature data in Celsius for 1 week. So we're going to be working with like 1 week of temperature data. So we just want to perform like a quick data analysis using NumPy to extract meaningful insights and trends. So here's like the objectives. We're going to use arrays, NumPy arrays to store and manage temperature data, calculate the average, maximum, and minimum temperature difference between each day. We're also going to identify the hottest and coldest days, and by the end we're going to present a short summary of our findings. So without further ado, let's just get right into it. Here's like an optional bonus. So we're going to be using matplotlib to visualize the data. This is optional, and I'm not going to be doing this in this video, so I'm just going to be focusing on this. So without further ado, let's get right into it. So first, we want to store and manage the daily temperature data. So I'm just going to include a comment. I'm going to create a comment for this. So to do that, we can do that a couple of ways, but first we have to create. I'm probably going to create like a random temperature data. There are different ways to do this, but I'm just going to do it like this. So to create like a array data, it's just going to include different values: 23, 45. Let's just include 35, 37, 39. Here's like a way to create like an array. So when we run this, let's store this into a variable. So data is equal to this, and let's try to run this. Oh yeah, of course, first we have to import NumPy. So let's import NumPy as np, and now let's run this. Alright, so we have our array created. You can include as many values in here as you want. And there's another way to create an array to make things faster, just to walk you through real quick. So let's try something else. Data 2 is equal to, using the range function. It really helps if you just want to create like a random range of values. So here's what it does. Here's like a demonstration. So it starts with the start position where you want the data to start from, the end position, and then the difference between each values that come up. So let's demonstrate this real quick. Let's start from 20, and then we're going to end at maybe 39, and then we want to include like a difference of 3. So let's run this. So let's check out data 2. So as you can see over here, so we have our array created starting from 20, then we're having like a difference of 3, 20, 23, 26, 29, all the way to 38. So that's like a fast way to like just create records, right? So to increase our records, I want the temperature data to be realistic. So 40 should be the highest. It shouldn't be too hot. So yeah, we got the same thing. So we can pretty much work with this one. So now that we have our array created, we've stored our temperature data into uh, an array. So the next thing we have to do now is we have to perform some basic NumPy operations. So the first operation we want to perform is this. Yeah, let me just copy all of this real quick. And I'm just going to paste this in here. Now we want to find out the average temperature of the week. So to find out the average temperature, we're going to use the mean function. So we're just going to input like data in here. So as you can see over here, we have our average temperature in here. So our average temperature is 35.8 Celsius. So the next thing we want to find out is the maximum and minimum temperature. So to find the maximum is pretty easy. We're just going to use the max. Then we're going to input our data in here. Actually, since we're working with this data too, so let's just try it with this. Oh, let me just remove this real quick. So here we go. Okay, so here, if we're going to be working with data too, here's our average temperature. So let me just copy and paste this into another cell. Let me create multiple cells. And let me also copy this and paste it in here. Okay, so let me delete this now. So the next thing we want to find out is the maximum and minimum temperature. So to find the maximum temperature is pretty easy also. We're just going to use the max function, then input our data in there. And then here we can see our maximum, now data 2, that's what we're working with. So data 2, our maximum is 38, which is true. So to find our minimum also, let me just input this. We're going to use the mean. So that will be, we're going to input our data too. So here's our minimum. So let me just also copy and paste this into another cell. I can just include the minimum in here. So I just want to split things out for you to make things easy. So let me just put maximum here, maximum temperature. Let me paste this down here. And this will be our minimum temperature. Okay, so now let me just run this down here. Let me delete this. Okay, so there we go. We have a maximum and minimum temperature. So the next thing we want to find out is the temperature difference between each day. And to do that, we're going to use the diff function. So what it does, it calculates the difference with each values in this cell. So it's going to subtract this value with this value, this value with this value, and so on, you know. So here's how it goes. Here's how it's going to work. So we're just going to include data in here. And here you can see we have the difference between each. Wait a second, I'm not sure if this is, let me try data 2. Okay, so using data 2, we can see that the difference between each of them is 3, which is true because we added like a, difference of 3 over here also. So that's how the diff function can be really helpful. So assuming we have like a much more variety of values in here, for example, it will be really helpful. So we can know if how consistent the temperature is rising and falling. But currently we can see a steady trend in temperature rising. So if that makes any sense. So now that we know the difference between the temperature difference between each day, the next thing we want to do now is we want to identify the hottest, coldest days above the weekly average temperature, and then we're going to present a short summary of our findings. So let's do just that. So I'm just going to paste this in here. So we want to find the hottest and coldest days, and to do that, pretty much hottest days is going to be the highest, and lowest day you can pretty much just use the max and mean. I think we pretty much solved that over here. The coldest day is like 29, and the hottest day is let me just check this out real quick. Yeah, 38. So we pretty much solved this one. So let's move on to the next one. Alright, so I had to store all this into a variable really quickly, so it's going to make it easier for us to present our findings. So I created a variable for the temperature difference, the minimum temperature, maximum temperature, and average temperature. So now let's find out the days above the weekly average temperature. So to do that, it's quite easy because we have to determine the mean, which is something we've already done above, but I'm just going to do that again. So that will be data 2. So let me just run this. So now all we have to do now is just going to do data 2 greater than this. So let's run this, and here it's returning a Boolean value. So when we cross check, you can see we only have like 3 values, which is true. So let's check it out real quick. So as you can see, it's true. So to make things much more presentable, all we have to do is store, let me store this into a variable first, above average. Alright, so now that it's stored, so all we have to do now is just, I'm just going to call out the variable, then I'm going to store this above average inside a square bracket. So let's run this. So as you can see, it's much more presentable. So let me store this into a variable also. It's going to help us with presenting, and that will be equal to this. And let me run this, and there we go. So now let's present a short summary of our findings. Let me delete this real quick. So I'm just going to pause this video and I'll get back to it. Alright, so here's the script that I managed to create. So it's just to make things much more cleaner, it's just printing it and adding like some comments into it. So let me just run this, and there we go. So we have this, our average temperature is 29 degrees, highest temperature, lowest temperature, temperature difference, and the above average temperature. So we can always wrap things up here, and we can go a little bit further by visualizing our results using Matplotlib. So I'm just going to go ahead and copy and paste the script, and I'll try to explain what's going on. Alright, so we got our script. So all I'm doing here is I'm importing Matplotlib, and we're also importing an extension which allows us to plot, and we're adding like an alias to it. So now I declared a new variable called the days, and using the NumPy range function, it's just going to generate like a range of days from 1 to 7, and then we're just including the title for our plot, X label, Y label, and with this show function, it's just going to show our visualization. So let me just show you what I mean real quick. So when I run this, it should be able to help us plot a graph. So it's telling us that temps is not defined. Oh yeah, we use data too. So let me just rename this. Okay, so let's run this. Okay, so here we go. We can see that our temperature is having like a steady increase. So which is exactly what we did. So I guess we managed to achieve what we wanted to achieve in this video. We learned about NumPy arrays. We learned about how to perform certain operations on NumPy arrays, and we also presented our findings and plotted a nice graph that shows our findings. So I hope this video was helpful. If you did, if you enjoyed it, give it a like, subscribe. If you have any questions, don't hesitate to drop a comment down below. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next video. Cheers.